So here we have 3 bulbs and one halogen low beam hella free projector or lens. And as you can see, 2 of these bulbs are LED and 1 of these bulbs are halogen, which this lens is made for. And I was really curious to see how different LED bulbs perform, because you see the reflector in these kinds of headlamps modules. The reflectors are really small, and therefore you have lower tolerances on LED bulbs. You can't have the bulbs too thick, otherwise it will really affect the not the high beam, but the beam pattern and such, and you will lose a lot of the hot spot compared to a normal halogen bulb. So I wanted to test 2 different LED bulbs. I just tested these 2 in this test. I don't really think I have too many other H7 as well, but I think this was a good 2 different generations and quality grades of bulbs. But otherwise fairly similar in my opinion. So the standard halogen is nothing special. You really want to upgrade light. The beam performance is okay, but there isn't too much light. But moving on to this bulb here, it's fairly popular. You find it at a lot of different shops, and here in Norway you can also find it locally. It uses 3 Philips SETI S LEDs. These are fairly high quality, and as you can see, it's actually fairly small as well. So these were the first LED bulbs or LEDs that really set the standards at giving a good beam pattern, but that is in larger reflector headlamps and not with smaller reflector lenses like this. But the main problem, I believe, is the thickness of the bulb. As you can see, it's really thick, and therefore also the LEDs are really far apart, and this really shows in a smaller reflector like this. And also tested like bulbs like these thick ones in motorcycle headlamps. You see the same thing. If you have a small reflector, the beam pattern will be much worse compared to a large, let's say, truck headlamp with a much bigger reflector. Then the tolerances are bigger, and these LEDs will work fine. But keep in mind, this is still a fairly okay bulb. The beam pattern is fairly okay, and you can't really compare this bulb even to the crappiest bulbs that you find out there. They will perform even much worse than this bulb. But here we have like the next generation of bulb. You can find this at various places under different name. You can also buy it here locally in Norway, and we can really see the difference in thickness, and I think that is the main reason why this performs so much better. But to make a bulb this small, you have to have better cooling, because it's harder to draw more heat down because you have a thinner base. You also need better materials and also better way of making the bulb, because there's much smaller components and everything is just packed much more tighter together. So you need better machinery to like produce all of the different parts. But we can see this is like a CNC machined aluminum housing, and they also have these things on the tips there to like act as the glare shield we see on top of this bulb, or the ceramic coating on the halogen bulb. For some reason this bulb have been discolored. It was actually black, but that doesn't really do anything. And the LEDs in these ones is I don't really remember, but HGL3 lattice bright diodes, I believe. They are an upgrade from these. These perform maybe 1800 lumens under ideal condition in a LED bulb. These perform 2500 lumen each. I mean a set of 2, of course, for each bulb. And the beam pattern is better. It's smaller, and there's no gap in between the LEDs. And this LED here is also automotive grade, which I also believe this is. But let's see how these perform in the reflector. I will show you 3 different pictures. So here we have the beam pattern with the halogen bulb running at 13.8 volt. We can really see that the width on the light is not that great, but you get a fairly good hotspot in the center of the light. And overall it isn't bright, but it isn't terrible as well, and we get a nice light beam out on the road. And this is secure and it's really cheap, these kinds of bulbs. So here we can see the first LED bulb which I was talking about with the Philips ZES diodes, and we can see that we get a little bit more width on the light, but you see in the hotspot where you really want the light, this LED bulb is just much weaker compared to the halogen, so it's a big downgrade. And I have measured the lux in all of those black points, and we can really see that in the middle there you get a lot less light. So this is a big downgrade, and I can't really recommend any bulb like this with a thicker base and a bigger distance between the LEDs if you're going to mount it in a LED projector or halogen projector like this. Then we switch to the other LED bulb with the HGL lattice bright 3 diodes, and this bulb also got a much thinner base, and we can see that the light distribution in this beam pattern is just much better. You have a wider light compared to the halogen, but you also get a much brighter hotspot compared to the halogen. And I also like a whiter light, mostly because of looks, so it's nice to have a bulb that you also upgrade your light but also get a much cooler look too. And looking at the lux readings on this bulb, we can really see that this bulb here is actually brighter compared to the halogen and much brighter compared to the other LED bulb, even though in theory this bulb here is only 500 lumens brighter compared to the first LED bulb. But we see in the corners you get a lot more width on the light. You get up to 150% more in those corners, and if you were to measure more points as well at the corners, you would see higher numbers. And then when we move into the center, you also see that this bulb here is actually able to focus more of the light in the right places, so you get a brighter hotspot as well. So overall, this is a really good upgrade in my opinion, and lifetime on a bulb like this is much longer compared to a halogen bulb, so I don't really see the downside in upgrading to a bulb like this. And you also see that the beam pattern is nice and you won't blind anybody on the road. Also made some lux readings with the scatter from light, and it's really insignificant compared to the halogen, so that is not anything you have to think about in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will leave some links to the last LED bulbs where you can get them. Of course I won't leave links for every market, but if you are in United States, Russia, Norway, you will find them, this exact bulb. But otherwise, keep in mind what I told you with the base and kind of LEDs and such, and you will probably find a lot of other bulbs as well that will perform similar to this bulb. But if you want this exact high quality bulb, look at the links below. Thank you.